Milsurp Garage here. So up north wanted the Remington Model 12 done. Todd B wanted the Winchester Model 63 done. And now Ben Thomas mentioned Stevens on my Savage video. Just mentioning Stevens was enough for me to consider that a request. So here we are with the Stevens Visible Loader. Yes, one of the craziest rifles of all time. There is nothing like this rifle. It's totally insane. So let's just get some of the Stevens history out of the way here, because I could just kind of just give you a very brief synopsis on why Stevens is even mentioned in the same words as Savage all the time and how this actually happened. That's not even really the important history. The important history to understand about Stevens is that Joshua Stevens, he's the guy that's makes the company named Stevens. This guy was the brainchild of the 22 rimfire. This guy was basically the guy that invented the 22. There were 22 shorts before that, but they were kind of lame. He was the guy that really put together what we know of today as the 22 long rifle in all its glory. He definitely perfected it. So Stevens, the company itself, has a long and sordid history. First, they came on the scene. There were a lot of buying outs and doing weird stuff. 1864 is really when they got put together. Stevens and a couple of dudes put together the company in Chicopee Falls, Massachusetts. And what these guys did was, well, first of all, it really wasn't a good time putting a company together. It's kind of like when you see companies that were put together in like the late 20s. You know, they didn't really have a really good start no matter what, because they bumped right up against the Depression, you know, in the 30s. But believe it or not, a lot of people don't know this. There was like a depression in the late 1800s, 1873 to be exact. It was called the Panic of 1873, which that was actually called the Great Depression until the 30s came along, and then the country really realized what a real depression can do. I don't think it was quite as bad as the Depression in the 30s, but it was. You could read about it if you're into, the history. You could read about it, but it kind of started Stevens off on a stumbling block that they walked right into that. But then after that, they kind of prospered. They became like the Stevens Firearm and Tool Company or something like that. And they made tools. They made all kinds of crap. Something else interesting that they made. I think they even dabbled with automobiles. They were all over the place. And then they bought up another company, and they bought a company that they were prospering like that. But then in in New England, Westinghouse bought them in 1915, and then they were bought again by Savage in 1920. So in 1920 is basically when the Savage thing entered the scene. But Savage didn't just rebrand everything. They kind of kept the Stevens brand alive. They even kept the warehouse that made Stevens stuff was actually around all the way until the 60s, if you could believe that, in Chicopee. And then that's when they tore that plant down, and anything that was made Stevens was all folded into the Savage production places, But the Milsurp thing always ties in, and the Stevens factory, where they did all that, making of just the Stevens guns during Savage's ownership, was the factory that made the Lee Enfield No. 4s that you see out there that are branded by Savage. They made Thompson submachine guns. Obviously, this is all for the World War II effort. They made Browning automatic rifles, BARs, Browning 1919 machine guns, M2 machine guns. They made all that stuff in that factory. That was it being torn down in 1960 is a shame. That should have been reserved as some kind of museum, it sounds like, because man, there's a lot of history in that building. But that's where this guy was made. And the dating of these is weird. I'm going to try to come up with a date for this exact guy. Then we'll move into exactly the design and how weird this thing is. But nearest I can tell, it's very hard to date them because nobody kept records with all these changes. And then there were a couple of fires, and then there was liability because these things really weren't the most reliable rifles. And then, you know, some company that bought out another company that bought out another company that now owns Stevens wouldn't want to. They would want to distance themselves as far as possible from like any kind of records or anything that tied them to this older stuff that could potentially blow up and hurt somebody and get them sued. You know what I mean? So some of these records, they're just non-existent, and some companies kept very good records. But this is one of those cases where you got to kind of date it by the features because they did change some stuff around. So without boring you with all these crazy little things, you could look, if you have one of these, you could look online and try to do the same thing. This has some early features with just a couple of late features, and one of the early features is this steel butt plate. Another early feature is the fact that there's two extractors here on either side, and that they're different, so you can't swap them from left to right. Apparently they made a change later on where the extractor from either side, there was just one extractor, and it took two, but you could interchange them. But this rifle, they're unique. There's a left side and a right side. Those were the early ones. Also, the early versions were this tool steel. This, what do they call this again? I'm drawing a blank. This was called case-hardened receiver and not blued. So that's an early feature. But then there's a couple of late features, like the 22-inch barrel is a later feature. Of course, it could have been replaced, even by Stevens themselves. Who knows? But, and the straight stock here is an early feature without the pistol grip. So because of those things, I would date this somewhere in the 1917 to 1920 range. They made these from 1907 to 1934. So from 07 to 34, this one I date somewhere in the 1917 to 1920 range, which would be Stevens, Savage buyout. So this was when this thing was made, when Stevens was Stevens. And these could be found short, long, or all long rifle, or all three. This one, I looked around to get one that was all three, and got this one as being all, that its chambers all three. Some interesting printing on there. Chicopee Falls. So what's the story here? I don't know capacities. I never said. This is one that I just hadn't sat here and figured out what capacities are. But it's interesting here that even in this early model like this, there wasn't that flat cutoff that you see sometimes on the muzzle end. It is rounded. It's not relined here, and this bore looks good. Interesting front sight. I forgot there's a name for this type of front sight that looks like this, with like just a blade like that. I can't remember what that's called, but there's a certain name for it. Again, like most of these, it has this. See, here's one of these ones that twist. These I don't like because you see what happens when there's not a lot of rounds in here. This gets real floppy. This gets sloppy. And this, well, there's actually a real positive pullout right here where it clicks over something. But still, I noticed that those come loose. And, you know, again, your typical magazine. This is a real smooth feeling one. Nice. But I'm going to show you. I know I had mentioned a couple of times. You can tell the quality of the rifle by how these slip over rounds. Being that this takes 22 long rifles, and I do have my aluminum snap caps, I can show you how it functions, which like I couldn't do on the last rifle because I don't have snap caps for the 22 Winchester Auto. If they're shorts, I don't have shorts. I couldn't do it with the 1890 to show you function. I don't like chambering anything live unless I'm at the range, no matter what. You can't ever have an accident if you never chamber around. It's impossible unless, you know, they just like heat up in your ammo cabinet and explode spontaneously. But you're certainly not going to be having a firearms accident. You're going to be having a, you know, fire. So anyway, this corncob forend is kind of interesting. You know, You got to check out this lockup here. You know, when you get back to the lockup, this is where the gun locks up. That has to be checked out. This is just the ultimate in crazy designs. This thing is built like, I mean, you feel like you could hammer nails with this receiver, and then this is where it kind of like had a little bit of a weakness, was the lockup. Let's move on though. So here's the hammer, exposed hammer. Works like most exposed hammers. It has a half cock that works, you know, works good. Doesn't drop the hammer there. Bang here on half cock. Everything locks up. Nice. Nice safe way to carry it, you know. And oddly shaped trigger. The straight stock with a short top tang, a little bit of a longer bottom tang, and a steel butt plate. And there you go. I mean, on the stepped sight right here. Got everything. It's all there. Here's what makes these things weird. Right away you can see there's something weird going on here, because it looks kind of like it would be like a favorite, where this would peel back or would be a falling block. It does have a frame that's very similar to this, to the favorites, or the what was those other ones called? The favorites and the just can't think of it, but you know what I'm talking about. I know you're all yelling it out at the screen, but you know, Stevens did have a couple that were you know, very similar to this design, but had a had like a falling block here, or a you know, kind of like a Remington rolling block. This actually has this entire assembly here moves. You can see it's taken the magazine tube with it, the fore end, all of this mechanism here, the whole loading tube, everything, the inner and the outer, and this block back here that's going straight through the receiver. It's taking everything with it. And the only thing that's sitting still there is the hammer, the trigger, and the barrel. You see? Everything else is going. There's no receiver proper. It's just kind of like missing. There's really no actual, just, you know, bolt kind of. It's just one big long unit here that's totally exposed. And you can see a lifter here. You can see a lifter come up, watch, whoop, there it goes, right? So you can kind of see just by looking at this, you'd be like, all right, it's taking around, it's doing something there. Kind of getting the idea now why they're calling it the visible loader. And then upon closing, you see it has a, underneath this rod right here, this guide rod, there is a hinge here, and there's like another guide rod behind it, same exact size, that pops out to the side. You see that? It pops out to the side there. And that's what locks up. You see that locked up into the receiver. And then when the hammer drops, it'll release it. Now watch, see the keyway there? Watch how that piece, can you see how that, oh, I'm sorry, let me get you in film, in camera there. Let me make sure I got light on it. See how that will fall into that keyway? See right there, zoop, and then you're able to cycle again. And then when it closes again, watch the lockup. And there it is again, locked up. So that's all that's really locking everything all up. The power of the holding this in place when there's an explosion here pushing the bullet down the barrel is just by that little tang held out against the receiver. And once again, you could see it slide into place there to disappear for the action to cycle. That's crazy, right? That is crazy. Now let's show you why they call this thing the visible loader. Yeesh. Let's get 5 of these is good. You don't want to go too crazy. I hope it actually works. This thing is the most finicky thing. I know you've heard. You're waiting for me to say it. I know. It had a nickname as the miserable loader. That was its that was its nickname. Are we still recording here? Okay, good. I think so. I didn't think we were last time, but now look, this is like a true gallery gun. Like you see, like a lot of these gallery guns, they don't even have that loading port right here, because what you would do is you would take this out completely, and then they would have like a tube. Say it didn't have a follower like this. It was just a tube that would be preloaded with like a button on the end that would, and the button would hold, you know, the rounds wouldn't be able to fall out. So you would push in that button to release them, put it here and go tilt it up, and all the rounds would slide in to fill the tube, and you'd have the exact amount of rounds in that loading tube to fill, whatever the capacity was for the rifle, or whatever the shooting gallery wanted to offer as whatever you got for $1 or a quarter or a nickel or whatever. But with this, you got to kind of just load them in one at a time through the end. Alrighty. Now, here's the thing. Like I would always say, that the quality you could always tell by how easy is it to see that once this tube butts up against it. It takes more than 5, by the way, so it would be a little bit more difficult if it was more than 5. But how hard is it going to be to go over those rounds? You see how we open maybe 3 of them, that's maybe 2 of them, that's maybe 3 of them. Twist a little, manipulate a little, couple of taps. No, see, it just doesn't want to go any further. Oh, maybe one, no, not one more. Try to tilt it over to the side. Try the other side. Now again, these are like aluminum snap caps. There we go. Whew. But trust me, using regular 22 ammo was only slightly less of a pain in the ass. Now, the thing about this is to show you the action. I'm pretty sure if I just raked it real fast, I would go through all 5 of these, you know what I mean? And they would fly all over the shop here, and you wouldn't be able to see what the hell happened, but it would work. The thing is that going slow could sometimes make it not work, but you want to see what's happening. So let's just give it a try and see what I could do here. Let me just get one. First of all, let me just drag it hard just to see if I could just get the first one in place. Okay, no. It's being finicky. Let's just see. Hold on. Okay. Let's start from here. There we go. Okay. Now, when you open the action all the way, that lifter pushes that round up in between those double extractors. See it? And you see the one underneath it ready to go? Now the deal with this is you chamber it, right? And remember, you can't drop the hammer on the firing pin with these snap caps because you will be hitting the rim of them and you'll just destroy them. So now after firing, bang. The interesting thing about this gun, I'll just say it now so you can kind of watch to see what happens. It might have extractors, but it does not have an ejector. The ejection is the lifter pushes the next round up into between those extractors and pushes the empty case out. So let's see if that actually happens. There we go. It actually worked. Unbelievable. Shame on the naysayers that say, you tune one of these right and you're good. And then close again. Bang. Same thing. Oops, wait a minute. There it goes. See, you got to use a little force with this. You can't. I think a lot of people's problems with these is they're small and they feel fragile. They feel like a little baby gun. And you feel like you have to be gentle with it. But these things demand that you mean what you say. You know what I mean? You can't be kidding around. You got to boom. Whack. Didn't work. Oh, I see the last one stuck in there, though. See? See what happens? Let me hold on. Rectify this before we have a serious incident. Oh, it went into place. It went into place. No. Oh, see what happened? Perfect. See what happened here? With all my moving around? That popped out. All by itself. So you see, because that popped out, I have no spring pressure here. Now I got spring pressure back on that round. That will be fine. Oop. Now, watch what happens with the last one. Remember I told you that the round below it pushes it up. So, after you shoot, bang, now you have an empty case in here. This would be the time to reload. You leave that in there. because otherwise, if you open this up now, you're not going to be able to get it out. It's just going to keep chambering the empty brass. There's nothing below it to push it out, see? So what you would do is, if you were out in the field and you were plinking, you would just reload with that brass there. You just leave it there. So that this way, next time you chamber a bunch of rounds, then it would get kicked out. So if you just have that one left, you actually have to just reach in and pull it out by hand. That would be the story. So that's how she works. Yo, is that cool or is that cool? I mean, it was something different. It was something innovative. He was thinking, you know? He sat down, he came up with something. This is like nothing else. He didn't rob from anybody. He didn't borrow. Who the hell designed this thing? I want to know what the guy's name is. I gotta look it up. I think it just might have been this Joshua Stevens guy. I really take a look. I didn't really see a designer. Poke around on Wikipedia, see what you come up with. But you know, these are never short of being interesting, with little inspection marks and little doodads and changes that they had made through the years. Again, you could see on these extractors, you could see how they're shaped. They're like L's. You see that? They're both L's, like hockey sticks. Here they are right here on either side of the... So you couldn't possibly interchange those. They're a left and a right. But supposedly they changed them where they just made it, just wasn't like a hockey stick shape. It was just straight with a hook on the end, you know, with the grabby piece over here. And then you could interchange them. This was before that. And again, like most, you see there's the follower right there. I can move the magazine tube out. Oh, look at that. It pulls the whole thing if you go to move the magazine tube out without releasing it. But you can see the follower landing right in there. And, you know, it's simple, but I remember when I got this, it didn't work right, and I puttered around with it when I took it apart and cleaned some parts, and it's not like I sat there and like changed any tolerances or moved any pieces. It was just dirty. It didn't function right, and it was just dirty. I think they demand to be clean, and I think they demand to be muscle. They want you to, you know what I mean? Feels like it could take it. I just worry a little about that. Yo, listen, I'm telling you right now, subsonic ammo in these, man. If you're gonna shoot them, do not like bust out the Stinger, Super X, Hyper, Velocitor, whatever. Just normal target stuff, I'd say. You know, like CCI. Stick with CCI. It's clean. And they have like some really cool CCI subsonic long rifle stuff. And or even better yet, just with this guy, man, maybe just stick with some CB shorts. Here, I'll show you. This is what I love to go shoot. Here's what I shoot. I bring these. I fill these up, CB caps. Look at them. How many of these do I have in here, for crying out loud? I got a million of them. I'm not even going to pull them out, but trust me, I got millions of them. They're everywhere. I'm looking for more and I can't find any. I'm lying to you. No, I have a ton of these freaking things. Where are they? I have a whole box somewhere. I thought it was up on my shelf here. I have a whole box of these CB caps, like in the thing, like a whole case. Look at them all. You go. I like these because they're shake outable. I hate pulling out of those CCI things, like each round or dumping them out. I hate that. I like to just, you know, you take a handful, you cap it off, you pass it to your buddy. You got a handful of these things. These CB caps are awesome, and they're gonna function awesome out of this thing. You're never gonna break it with those things. Well, never say never. You're never gonna break it with those, and they're nice and quiet. They ricochet off a rock. They're not gonna like go 6 miles away and, you know, break some lady's teacup. They're you know, just a real nice plinking round. They're cheap as hell. They're quiet, and you're just gentle on these guys. That's what it is. And when you load the tube, it's like you load the tube with like a million. It was open again. Did you see that? That's why I don't like this like push and twist jammy. I don't like that. And somebody might say, we'll take the end here, crimp it tighter. No, I ain't touching that. Never mess with these tubes, man. Getting these tubes to feel smooth like that, go in and out. Let me tell you, you kink or bend one of these tubes or you tweak them, it's never going to be the same. It'll never be the same. So if you have one that's mint, that feels beautiful, this feels so nice and smooth going in and out, that's what you said. Just leave it alone. You know, but taking this guy apart, I remember was fun. I don't remember anything like totally crazy about it. I followed some instructions I found. And look, whenever you see these little screws on these guys, that's for like these marble sights, and these sights that they had, they're like sights with the, you know, the optic. What do they call that? Optic. What do they call that? You know, it's like is it dioptic? I think it's dioptic. It has like a little circle on one side, and then the front sight would be replaced with something, or maybe not. But it would just be something that connects onto here that you see them. They're expensive. There's collectors that only collect those things. And sometimes when you buy these rifles, you'll see like a mark where it was, you know, like that the rifle had it, but the guy was smart to sell the rifle and the optic separate. You might actually get more for the sight than for the rifle in some cases, you know what I mean? And then the hard part comes to find these little screws that go in there that look, you know, like they're supposed to. But this one did come with those screws. And that's the story. That's the story with the Stevens visible loader. Stevens visible loader. Look how beautiful, like this. Can you see how shiny that type of tool steel is that's there, that case hardened steel? It's really awesome. And there's like looks like somebody at one point like shellacked this thing or something, you know, like the wood. And it looks like some of it worked its way onto the metal, but I don't want to mess with it too much to try to take that away, because I want to be really careful about keeping the patina on the steel here. You know, I'm afraid if I put anything in it would clean it or do something to it, chemically react where it would make a mark. So like I kind of, whatever I can get off with my fingernail, that's as far as I'll go, you know. And that's about it. That's about as much as I could get off with my fingernail. And the rest of it is staying. See, there's like a little bit of a kind of a patina-y kind of dirt on the trigger guard. And I kind of stopped right there in my restification and didn't go any further because I just wanted the patina to stay right there. It was like perfect, you know. Let me know if you got one of these. Let me know if you like one of these. Let me know what you don't like about them. Let me know if I didn't cover anything. Let me know if I said something wrong. Let me know, most of all, what I should do next, because listen, guys, let's get crazy. I got like 50 of you there, at least 50 of you in 2 days. I'll watch these. That's, as far as I'm concerned, that's a lot of people. You guys are awesome to like want to come in here and watch videos on these kooky old 22s. See, there could be some videos I can get doing on the Milsurp stuff with thousands and thousands of views. This means more to me. This is like, it's not just another M1 Garand video. It's not just another Mosey Nagant video. It's like I sit down, I watch that stuff just like you. I watch them all day. I watch all kinds of videos on this stuff or whatever. You know what? I'm going to tell you next time about some of the channels that I love to watch. Of course, I can tell you now. Of course, there's Hickok 45. He's the one that really turned me on to like Milsurps, believe it or not. So I'm not really in this collecting thing that long, you know. And let's see. I like to watch Log Cabin Looms. I think it's just one word, LOGCABINLOOMS. He's some guy in like South Dakota. I think it's South Dakota. Sorry, I hate to get that wrong because he kind of likes where he lives. He's into it. But it's like Indian kind of land with a river over there, and he lives like kind of like a life that I envy. It's like just a cabin with, I think the only electricity he has is if he runs a generator. He's burning wood for heat. It's damn cold up there. He's got an awesome truck, a military truck that he drives around, and he's got horses, dogs, and he lives an awesome life up there, man. He's really having a lot of fun, and his videos on guns and survival gear and on all different kind of stuff. It's just fascinating. I love to watch that guy. Gun Geek is always fun. Iraqi veteran I like. I like Othias at what is Othias' channel again? I'm drawing blanks here. I can't do that to these people. I gotta pull out something to read what their channels are, because that would be just downright rude. See, I'm gonna mention them and then. All right, sorry. Bear with me here. I'm coming. I'm coming, Elizabeth. All right. So who do we got here? My subscriptions. Okay. We got C&R Arsenal. Sorry about that. That's Othias. That's World War I stuff. He's definitely awesome. So that's C, the and symbol, and RSENAL. That's that channel. Why is it not scrolling over? Okay, who else we got here? There's Log Cabin Looms. Oh, of course, Ian at ForgottenWeapons.com. If you don't know that channel, check him out. That's right, Iraqi veteran. Oh, you got to check out Cold War Motors. It's on cars, not on guns, but it's just as awesome. Cold War Motors. Shout out. Shout out to Cold War Motors. All right, do I have anything else here? Who else do I have here? Oh, John Boy 09. Love to watch his channel on stuff. Mishako. He's that blind guy that reviews older stuff. He talks about old guns. He's always fun. Oh, I don't know what's going on. This phone is terrible. So that's where we're at. There's some channels that I like to watch. And that's why I'm saying it means a lot to me that at least 50 guys or so just want to sit and watch videos on these wacky things. I think I pulled up, I don't want to insult the guy, but I pulled up a video to see if there were any videos on this thing online. And there was one video right at the top where the guy's like, Steven's Visible Loader. You know, I'm like, oh, wow, let me watch this guy's video. Yo, that dude should be investigated. I'm talking, this dude was crazy. So there really was nothing on this thing. A couple of guys shooting one, but nobody really talking about the history. And you could probably find 8 billion videos on the history of like an M1 carbine, you know what I mean? So everything from the History Channel down to some guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. So I want to throw in just the same kind of information from what would be on the History Channel all the way down to a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm just going to talk about guns that nobody does videos on. Well, anyway, you guys got to let me know what to do next because I have no idea. Peace.